Let's go.
Hey everyone, and welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today's topic will be a deep dive into Cherry Bullet's journey so far and why I may be worried about them. This video was inspired by Jihoon's Carrot and their Why I'm Worried About Blank K-pop group, so definitely check them out because they have some interesting deep dives into different groups. As for why Cherry Bullet, to me, they've low-key been everywhere but also nowhere at the same time. I mean, with the amount of survival shows that I've seen with a Cherry Bullet member, I just thought of looking into what these appearances truly mean and what challenges they've faced to lead them where they are. The plan is to kind of go chronological order in terms of their career and point out some of the factors that I've noticed as concerns. But yeah, before I start, I'd appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to my channel. Without further ado, let's start off with their debut. Starting off, I would say their whole pre-debut to debut era was arguably one of the few things that FNC did well in. Low-key, that is kind of the bare minimum considering that's the basics of debuting a new group by utilizing as much resources as possible to get their name out. However, after that is when all the companies start to differentiate themselves in how much effort they put in their groups. But yeah, they had many different impactful pre-debut activities that would showcase their talent, potential, and faces. I mean, we had Haeyoon, who competed in Produce 48, Bora and Yuju appeared in BTS's highlight reels for their Love Yourself era, and then Jiwon, Remy, and Kokoro having trainee experience before signing with FNC Entertainment. What added an extra layer of anticipation to their debut was the fact that Cherry Bullet would also be the first girl group to come out of FNC since AOA. This would be before the whole AOA scandal and even before Mina's departure from AOA. And so this association as AOA's juniors, who at that time were considered a legacy group, further increased their hype for Cherry Bullet. Then to add to all of this hype, Cherry Bullet would then get a pre-debut reality show to further introduce themselves and their group dynamics, which all culminated in early 2019 when Cherry Bullet would make their debut with the single Q&A. Their video game concept along with the vibrant visuals captured the attention of listeners. While their debut didn't have the same impact associated within the big three, you could tell they had a good foundation for FNC to progressively elevate Cherry Bullet with the right promotional strategies. Cherry Bullet's journey was only the beginning, and yet many other issues would impact the group's growth as their first comeback would see them take one step forward and two steps back. Cherry Bullet experienced one of the more questionable lineup changes, which did have an impact on their trajectory. 6 months after they had debuted, Kokoro and Linlin would randomly start to disappear from Cherry Bullet's socials. This would then be followed by Mire, to which fans would start voicing their concerns about their disappearances. FNC would stay quiet and not make a statement until a few months later in December, in which they announced the departure of all three members. From the official statement, FNC stated that after discussions with the three members, they would decide to end their activities and terminate their contracts with FNC. The only reasoning I could find for their departure would be through Linlin, who explained her reasoning for leaving was due to FNC not providing educational support, leading her to leave the idol life to finish school. Other than that, I heard other reasons like lack of creative control through the group's concept and through songwriting. However, I wasn't able to find sources to back up these claims. Regardless, it was clearly not because they didn't want to become an idol, as we would see Mire re-debut in Pixie before leaving them too. Plus, this year, we would also see the reappearance of Linlin and Kokoro as they are set to join survival programs within their home country. And so something must have gone on for all of this to kind of happen where FNC would allow the departure of three members. For both fans and casual listeners, this event remains a core memory and association, which is not the best one to have. This was not even 1 year into their career, and so to see not one but three members depart from the group, it just didn't feel like the best signs for the group's future. I mean, lineup changes have so much impact towards the group's dynamic as well as their overall image. Plus, if you factor in the impacts of any of them being stan attractors or biases, which Kokoro seemed to fit based on comments that I was reading, and then this becomes another reason for people to leave the fan base. This factor does bring me to the next change that would occur around the same time and once again see another exodus from fans. Next up is the group's concept, which to me, they nailed during their debut era. It was such a unique concept and helped distinguish themselves from the oversaturated K-pop market. However, after only one comeback, FNC gave up with the quickness for a more girl crush concept in the form of Hands Up. Despite being a drastic switch up, the song would still be liked by international fans, bringing in a new audience. This contrasted the domestic fans though, who would be more divided in their opinion of the song, causing some of them to leave the fan base. This concept change would also coincide with what was thought to be a rebranding of the group, as this was the first comeback since the departure of the three members, and so there was so many changes that made this group feel completely different. I mean, obviously, subjectivity of musical opinions meant that you can't please everyone. However, consistency in concept would be appreciated to at least solidify a fan base, which FNC would not do, as Hands Up would be the only song to accompany this era. This meant that OG fans would assume that FNC would be neglecting their interest since there were no B-sides to show any different. Going back to the whole consistency idea though, even despite how popular Hands Up would be, FNC would also take another interesting approach in that they would decide to go back to more of a summer bright concept with their next comeback. I mean, if they were to ever consider doubling down, it should have been with the following comeback. However, the stark contrast between Hands Up and Aloha Oe would indicate more of an identity crisis, as this concept change would see Cherry Bullet struggle to balance the expectations from new and old fans. Then to further just how messy this digital single era was for Cherry Bullet, Aloha Oe would also have its own cultural appropriation controversy. As of recent though, I would say Cherry Bullet have kind of bounced back conceptually through their Cherry trilogy, having a decent concept and cohesive sound. However, this did take 2 years for them to find, which isn't really too long, but with the evolving competition within K-pop, it becomes harder for groups to maintain interest as listeners have more of a selection to pivot to other groups if the music isn't doing it for the listeners. Thus, taking time to develop a sound does come with its costs. Also, despite how well I think they have bounced back conceptually, there is another issue that kind of explains why this has kind of gone unnoticed to casual listeners. Another noteworthy aspect of Cherry Bullet's journey is the frequency of their comebacks. Similar to Blackpink, Cherry Bullet has accumulated a small catalogue of music with only 23 songs within their 4-year career. If we break that down even further, only the first 2 years resulted in 2 comebacks a year, which helped create more hype among fans, considering rookie years tend to be the most crucial time to accumulate fans and bring attention to the group. However, this was only for the first 2 years, as starting 2021, they shifted to only 1 comeback a year. This change not only made them less visible, but also limited their opportunities to attract new fans. The only real exception to such infrequent comebacks are groups who are already established like Blackpink, and so the frequency of Cherry Bullet's comeback have been hindering them a bit. Then to add to that, their yearly comebacks occur within the first quarter of the year, and so this also further distances them as these eras become distant memories with the amount of releases from many different groups as the year goes on. FNC have combated this through creating longevity through the amount of songs accompanying each era. However, title tracks tend to be more of a representative for the group's sound and music, with B-sides serving as a side thought for casual listeners. Unless the listeners find the title track to be impactful, it ultimately benefits existing fans only, in comparison to making 2 comebacks a year, which would increase the group's visibility. Survival shows are a double-edged sword. Usually it's a greater signifier for already debuted groups and their group being just unpopular. However, this also comes with the benefit of promoting both the idol themselves and the group associated with them. Depending on how popular the show is, then it also has the ability to revitalize careers, and as a result, winning the show further maximizes the attention received. However, winning is not the end-all be-all, as success can still be achieved through being a significant character within the show. show. For Cherry Bullet, they were sent on 4 survival shows with all varying degrees of capturing hype for the group in different ways. First off, there was V1, which a good niche program to bring more attention to Cherry Bullet's vocals, but this show wasn't popular enough to do big things. Then next up, we would have Girls Planet, which is where I think a good chunk of their renewed hype came from. From G1 winning all the rounds but yet still being eliminated, Mei being hidden within Cherry Bullet to making a name for herself within the show, to Bora following the footsteps of Haeun and slowly making a name for herself through her leadership and vocal abilities. Next up would be Reverse, which is also similar to V1. However, since this was about forming a VR girl group, promotion to their original group was quite lackluster. Then finally, the most recent survival program was Queendom Puzzle, which this time things didn't go as well, as Bora and D1 would end up getting evil edited, while Cherin didn't get any moment to properly shine. Cherry Bullet would also have a comeback before the show even aired, and so based on the pattern of yearly comebacks, this means that we might have to wait a whole year before they even utilize the hype and make a comeback. Putting into consideration all the survival shows that Cherry Bullet have competed in, this leaves Yuju and Remy as the only 2 that have yet to get solo promotions through a survival program. Do note that Yuju has been getting acting roles, which does combat the lack of solo promotions through survival programs. However, Remy has had nothing to her name. Also, if we were to take Girls Planet away from Mei, then she would also have nothing to her name too. Coincidentally, Remy and Mei are the foreign line of Cherry Bullet and also get the least amount of lines too. While the lack of management for certain members like Remy and Mei seem noticeable compared to others like Bora who collect survival shows like Icheon, I think this doesn't really impact the group overall as much, considering there's still a variety of members that get placed in survival shows as opposed to just one person consistently. Obviously, the only minor issue would be the missed potential of others like Remy and Mei, in which we just never know how they could do if they're put in those situations. I mean, case in point, we had Cherin, who would unfortunately not get the proper attention on Queendom Puzzle, but who's to say Remy or Mei might not get a Yeonhee edit, who also was a first-time survival show appearer and made it into the lineup. Finally, these are miscellaneous items that relate to F&C that I couldn't make into a whole discussion point, but they all kind of intertwine, and so I threw them all into this section. Starting off with management in general. It plays such a crucial role in the success of Cherry Bullet, yet with F&C, it has kind of been noticeably lacking. I mean, they have 9 groups with varying activeness, plus another boy group on the way. This kind of puts into perspective how medium-sized F&C is. Like, they aren't big enough where you would kind of put them in the expectation of getting success instantly like the big 3, but they also aren't small enough where you would give them leeway for not being able to do much. It seems like F&C are throwing stuff at them and hoping something sticks, as opposed to strategically planning it out and putting in effort into quality promotions. To illustrate this, their first comeback of Really Really was seen as disappointing with lower album sales and a lack of chart impact that they decided to cut the promotions short. As well as that, this contrasts other groups within their company like P1 Harmony, who are juniors to Cherry Bullet but seem to receive different treatment and investments. This is not meant to be an attack on P1 Harmony, however, it does highlight the resources and abilities of F&C. I mean, from consistently getting mini albums, more comebacks within a year, meaning more songs than Cherry Bullet, collabs with international artists, English versions to their songs, and even their own world tour, it really shows the difference in prioritization despite being in the same company. Obviously, there are other factors that explain F&C's decision. However, like I discussed in my Kiss of Life video, in comparison to Hot Issue, at what point do you just cut your losses? This is clearly not what F&C is doing, considering they're still giving Cherry Bullet group activities. However, the question does become, what's the bare minimum for group management? Final thoughts. Despite how much issues Cherry Bullet have had within in their career, their overall trajectory seems to be actually alright. Definitely not leading the 4th gen, but they're definitely in their own lane and have progressively exceeded their own peaks. They have not stagnated and still have so much room to improve. Overall, Cherry Bullet's journey has seen some ups with a lot of downs. However, they occupy a space within K-pop where, with the right opportunities, they could still surprise us all and pull an EXID. But yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching, and let me know your thoughts on Cherry Bullet's career so far and what you think their future might look like. With Lightsum having recently announced a comeback very soon, I might put their video on hold like weekly and just move on to Purple Kiss as my next video analysis. As well as that, I recently re-listened to Hocus Pocus by Bandit and thought there might be another good group to deep dive into. But yeah, if you're interested in any of these groups I've mentioned, then please like and subscribe to keep up to date, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!